Your West Michigan Chevy dealers and Benton Baker Chevrolet have teamed together as Chevy gives more back to our local community this holiday season with the West Michigan Chevy and Benton Baker Coat and Food Drive. Join us by donating winter jackets for all ages and non-perishable food items. Stop by Benton Baker on I-96 exit 16 Coopersville. Help us fill our West Michigan food pantries this holiday season. Benton Baker is committed to our community, and Benton Baker is giving back more. With every vehicle purchased in December, Benton Baker will give back to help the Coat and Food Drive. Stop by Benton Baker in Coopersville to donate your unwanted coats and non-perishable food items. Together, we can make this a better holiday season for everyone, especially those that most need our help this holiday season. Benton Baker thanks you for your business and for helping to make our community a better place to live and work. Happy holidays from Benton Baker, proud member of the West Michigan Chevy Dealers.
It's your car. You take it to people you trust.
Don't rebuild. We want to rip out your legs.
It's your finances. You want to go to the experts.
Cut your payments by 50%.
We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt. We can help.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Speak with a counselor today at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
In the streets below, traffic had stopped. Pedestrians were lying on sidewalks and curled up in doorways. There was no sign of violence, no wrecks, nothing like that. It was as if the people in New York had simply decided to stop whatever they were doing and pass out. Ice coated my stomach. The invasion has started. To find out what happens next, read Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library. And visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
And we are back at EyeOnMuskegon with the unbelievably legendary Oscar Osbo and our designated official who just moved away. Look, and now he's grabbing his headphones. Fruitport Township Supervisor and radio star Brian Worsham. You guys were just talking about some song or some music that you guys are familiar with about the Clipper. So
Brian and I go back almost 20 years now. We met each other in the JCs, and we started the Talkin' Tune show with John Van Wyck and Brian and G-Man and Bill Iddings and Annette Bach years ago. And we we had some fun. And that was the time they brought the Clipper here, wasn't it?
Correct, yeah. That was when they first brought it.
That's when Peggy White Knight was involved with everything.
Yeah. They had pictures of that, or video of that, in the presentation that was made to the county commission. And, you know, T.J. Parker, my neighbor and a friend of mine, is the head of that group now. And truly, if they were able to move to downtown, I think it would be excellent. Especially, I like the idea of Heritage Landing. Mm-hmm. But I have to talk to him and see if that video is online, because it really, what they've done to that ship on the inside is really spectacular. But you guys had some music. What's this connection?
What was the guy's name? I can't remember his name now. Do you remember his name?
I do not. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, we met a guy in the Papa Tap, I think it was, and he's kind of a comical singer. And so we sat down and at the Priory, which is no longer around anymore, but the restaurant that we went to after the radio show that we did, and we all contributed to a song called "The Rusty Clipper."
Well, it was quite rusty when it got here.
Yeah, it was. And so we had this guy perform it, and we put it on the air. So
we were known for making the show, for making fun songs, humorous commercials, and those types of things.
It was our life.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Well, one of the things
life, anyway.
that we want to do, and you know, I think the Clipper is a tremendous benefit to our county, but we want it to be self-sustaining. We want to make sure that it doesn't have little secret covenants when it moves to a new place that will hurt its future and hurt the taxpayers of the city of Muskegon. And I think this is one of the problems that I've had with situations like the county's jumping up in terms of the amount of money that the taxpayers are going to be paying for health care and others, is that there's no follow-up, and there's very little analysis of what this particular decision is going to cost coming down the pike. And we're now hearing just this past week, and we knew about this earlier, but the Heights Public Schools, Muskegon Heights Public Schools, is told now that $4.6 million in cuts were needed immediately. That's immediately. That's on top of $3 million it currently owes vendors. Now, I find it interesting, one of the vendors is the employees' health insurance, which, of course, is the MEA's private health insurance, which is significantly more expensive to school boards than others. But and on top of that, they've got a $7.9 million loan from the state, which apparently they have to pay back by August. So they have an enormous disaster over there in that school system. Now, the comments by the Dana Bryant, who is the recently deposed school superintendent, but he had responded to a very good question by one of the teachers, which was, how did we get to this point? And his comment was he started bringing his concerns to the district's finances to the staff at least 4 years earlier. Somehow, we've got to, when we see that iceberg, not that very far from the bow of the ship, we've got to demand that our leaders acknowledge it and prepare for what's going to happen. Time and again, we see the big, oh my gosh, we're out of money. We see it at the county level. We see it at cities and the townships. Anybody who thinks that what's going on in Muskegon Heights school system, anyone who thinks what's going on at the school or at the city level are unique is really missing the point. What's going to be happening very soon down the road, certainly wouldn't surprise me early next year, is our wonderful leaders at the county level are going to tell us, oh my golly, we are out of money. We need a $35 or so million jail, and the only way that we can afford that, of course, is some new taxes or significant cutbacks in services. And, folks, this is going to affect every one of you. It's going to affect you in the back pocket. One of the services that they could cut back if necessary, the county does not have to have a county road patrol for the sheriffs. They could cut that right out. That's not required. The only statutory requirement from the sheriff's office that must be complied with is the state or the county has to provide a jail, and the sheriffs have to staff that.
And server of the papers.
Oh, that's okay, correct. And that doesn't necessarily have to be done by sheriffs either. The papers must be served.
Correct.
So we could see significant cutbacks in services, and we could also see far more likely significant increases in taxes. And one of the things that's coming down the pike with this consolidation talk is the ability of communities to set up separate taxing bodies. So all over the place, we are hearing our experts saying that, oh my golly, we didn't see this coming, or in some cases, we did see it coming, but we didn't communicate what was coming down the pike to the taxpayers, which seems to be the norm in municipal government. And folks, it's coming. If you expect this community to thrive or even survive, you've got to get involved, because our leaders, we're now hearing the governor, the big news this morning is cutting back on these economic development grants significantly. One of the things that's been missing on all these economic development grants has been any type of follow-up as to how successful they've been. They haven't been successful at all. They've just been a way, as one of the commentators said, just a way to have a nice ribbon cutting. It's probably been a big boon to people who provide ribbon for those ribbon cuttings, but there hasn't been any follow-up. Anytime we do any of these great ideas, they open up, for instance, the 4-2 battery plants. I would assume that they're going to succeed. I would hope that they're going to succeed. But we've seen so many of these government-supported programs like Solandra and on and on and on absolutely collapse. So on that happy note, I've got my music ringing in the ears. I do love this song because it is so true. The government does have its hands in your pockets, and frankly, they're not happy enough to be in your pockets. They want to get in everybody's pockets. So we're going to be back with my August group, and we'll talk about consolidation, collaboration, regionalization, you name it, we'll be talking about it. We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks.
Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car. Because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. Know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun.
Cops are out there cracking down on drunk driving all across the country, and they'll see you before you see them. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Listen to the latest Denver forecast from Atlanta? It'll let you do that. Listen to that big mouth host in Cincinnati from Boise? You can do that too. It'll let you listen to over 850 live radio stations across the country on your smartphone. It's iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio. It'll even let you create your own commercial-free custom music stations. And it's free. iHeartRadio. Download the new iHeartRadio app for your phone today or experience it online at iHeartRadio.com.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. After a nearly 9-year war, all American combat troops have now left Iraq.
There'll be 150 or so advisors at Iraqi military bases showing the Iraqis how to operate and repair high-tech equipment they're currently purchasing, like 140 Abrams tanks, many of which right now are at a base east of Baghdad, and F-16 fighter jets Iraq is buying. The pilots will train in America, but engineers here in Iraq will need to know how to fit and repair the planes. There'll be a handful of military staff at the embassy here, plus a guard force typically comprising Marines. Apart from that, America's military mission here is over. Although Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said America's adversaries should not imagine the U.S. has gone away. 40,000 troops remain stationed in other countries in this region.
Fox News Radio's Alistair Wanklin in Baghdad. The playwright turned president, Václav Havel, has died. He led Czechoslovakia out of communism, speaking here in 1997 about America's ties to the rest of the world.
This is a world of a single global civilization which makes us all participants in one common destiny.
Havel was 75 years old. Flash flooding in the Philippines, killing more than 500 people with hundreds missing or cut off.
Poverty is no stranger to this area. Now add mud, death, and despair. 35,000 are in evacuation shelters. Mats, blankets, and clothes are being airlifted in, but Red Cross officials say what the people really need is clean water. Also coffins and body bags. Embalming fluids are also in short supply. Drowning victims with muddy water in their bodies piled up at local mortuaries are decomposing fast. America and Britain have sent condolences and are promising relief. Said the head of the Philippine Disaster Response Team, quote, "It's overwhelming. We didn't expect this many dead."
Fox News Radio's Bill Marcus. Police in Brooklyn, New York are looking for the man who burned a woman alive in the elevator of her apartment building. He's seen on surveillance video spraying her with flammable liquid, then tossing a lighter. This is Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Your West Michigan Chevy dealers and Benton Chevrolet have teamed together as Chevy gives more to the local community this holiday season with the West Michigan Chevy and Benton Chevrolet Coat and Food Drive. Join us by donating winter jackets for all ages, and the Cans from Fans semi-trailer is on hand at the Benton 20-acre Motor Mall for you to drop off non-perishable food items. Help us fill our West Michigan food pantries this holiday season. Benton is committed to our community, and Benton is giving more back. With every vehicle purchased in December, Benton will give back to help the Coat and Food Drive. We also invite you to stop by Benton Chevrolet on Henry Street. Donate your unwanted coats and non-perishable food items. Together, we can make this a better holiday season for everyone. Your West Michigan Chevy dealer and Benton Chevrolet, thank you for your business and helping to make our community a better place to live and work. Happy holidays from Benton Chevrolet, proud member of the West Michigan Chevy Dealers.
Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney on Fox News Sunday reacting to the now completed withdrawal of combat troops from Iraq.
We should have left 10, 20, 30,000 personnel there to help transition to the Iraqis' own military capabilities. I'm very concerned in this setting. I hope it works out.
Iraq would not agree to legal immunity for American troops to stay. An overcrowded ship sinks off Indonesia. Nearly 250 people were on board, with only around 36 rescues so far, clinging to debris. The ship was on its way to Australia, carrying people from Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey who'd been going to start a new life. In an economy where more people are getting things fixed instead of buying new, that's good for people doing the fixing.
Orders for those big new appliances like ovens and refrigerators fell in the second half of 2008, and they really haven't recovered yet. That means more business for Illinois-based Core-Centric Solutions, which rebuilds and refurbishes the components for items like Kenmore, Whirlpool, Genair, KitchenAid, Maytag, and others. Badal Wadia is the president and CEO.
Consumers are looking to repair and refurbish their homes, and thus wanting to keep their appliances longer than just buy new products.
Core-Centric has added 100 new jobs over the course of the past year and expects demand to pick up even more. In Glendale Heights, Illinois, I'm Jeff Flock, Fox News Radio.
Stuff from the house Michael Jackson was renting when he died sells for nearly $1 million at an auction in Beverly Hills, including the rug that was underneath his bed for $15,000. The headboard from that bed had been pulled from the auction at the Jackson family's request. An armoire with a message the singer wrote to himself on the mirror sold for more than $25,000. A kitchen chalkboard with "I love Daddy" written on it from his kids sold for $5,000. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News Radio.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Partly cloudy skies today with southwest winds increasing to 20 to 30 miles an hour and a high around 40. It'll continue to be windy tonight with partly cloudy skies and only a slight chance of rain late, a low of 39. Scattered snow showers in the morning tomorrow, then partly to mostly cloudy in the afternoon. Near steady temperatures around 40. Northwest winds 15 to 25. And just cloudy skies for Tuesday and a high of 37. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
A message from Orlando Bloom, Liam Neeson, Lawrence Fishburne, Salma Hayek, and Taya Leone.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes.
Like not getting enough food or medicine.
Or clean, safe water to drink.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
I believe.
I believe.
I believe that number should be zero.
Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Is that you had, at least if you're in Norton Shores or Fruitport Township, and you're interested in, you're unhappy with your current provider, there is an option, number one, of talking with City Muskegon, or, as you say, even building your own. Combining the two seems to me to take away choice. You guys do something, I think, really interesting when it comes to fire services, which is another area that is a great discussion about combining. And rather than demanding or cajoling or going out into, what is it, Sullivan Township, and then there's another township that you provide services
to? Sullivan.
Okay. But what you've done is you've approached Sullivan, or perhaps they've approached you, and they've said, we need fire protection. And rather than consolidate or whatever, they contract with you. You
Correct.
Sell your service.
Correct. And
they can quit anytime they like, outside of the contract rules.
And everybody sat down and negotiated a fair and equitable contract to provide services to them. And basically it's done on a percentage basis, is however much percentage of the services for the year are provided to Sullivan Township of the overall services is the portion in which they pay. I mean, they just simply pay their fair share of the cost of operation. But in the same breath, obviously, if we were outlandishly charging for our services, their costs would skyrocket, and they may not be so inclined to partner with us.
Well, they could look elsewhere. They could look
Absolutely.
at some of the other providers in the county of that same service.
Yeah, we run with a bare minimum full-time staff, and then utilize a significant paid-on-call staff to support the services when necessary. And yeah, we provide fire services for Sullivan Township, and they really, really enjoy the services that is provided to them.
And they maintain control, though. So here, you know, one thing that the left, which is primarily who's pushing this, the Democrats and the city leaders who tend to be Democrat, are pushing consolidation. We've got wondrous consolidation in our cable TV. How's that working out for you? We've got wonderful consolidation in cell phone companies now. I'm not all that comfortable with consolidating anything, but what you're talking about here is cooperation.
Correct.
Freely, the Sullivan Township or any other township can freely say, look, we don't want to go through the hassles of having to have our own fire department or police department or trash pickup or whatever it may be. And Fred, you jump in.
Yeah, exactly. Part of what you're getting at here is the underlying problem that you end up having with shared services. Number one, whether or not you are actually going to get the efficiencies. Secondly, what is the incentive for going to shared services? If you don't have a capitalistic type incentive where you're going to save money in some fashion, government inherently does not, work for a profit. Therefore, what is going to drive them in order to actually get them to participate in these shared services or this cooperation? Now, you saw about the fire system. That's a great example of if you have several of those types of participating agencies, then you do, in fact, get people migrating to the most efficient fire service available. It's the same argument with charter schools versus public schools. If you have charter schools, you end up getting more efficiencies because people can educate at a lower cost.
Well, what you're doing is you're providing more providers of the service, which results in more competition, which unfortunately for the folks in Muskegon Heights, and I would imagine for the taxpayers of the Muskegon County and the state of Michigan, when you have these overloaded, poorly run behemoths that are looking for consolidation, in other words, to bail them out, it isn't going to happen.
Now, Muskegon County, 7 municipalities went through one of the most in-depth shared services studies in the state of Michigan. And so it also indicated that as far as fire services are concerned, we are, as a county, running countywide. I mean, there's individual problems, but countywide, we are running one of the most efficient fire services in the state.
Why is that? What makes it more efficient?
The cooperation that we're doing, like the contractual with Fruitport and Sullivan Township, the mutual aid agreements that we have. We had a call last night of a chimney fire in Fruitport Township that was spreading into the home. When Central Dispatch toned that out, they toned out Fruitport, Norton Shores, and Muskegon Township. And all 3 municipalities arrived on the scene within minutes of each other to put that fire out.
Doesn't that seem like a little overkill for a chimney fire?
Not when it has spread to the attic, and it really needs.
Not when it's your house.
Yeah, not when it's your house.
Yeah, I was thinking it was someone else's house. It's a little different.
I would also point out in this whole discussion that generally, in my experience, it's the bureaucracy that is the biggest roadblock to any of these consolidations and efficiencies that you're talking about. What happens is that the bureaucracy's first rule for survival kicks in, and they want to survive. They want their jobs to survive. They want their organizations to survive, and they are unwilling to look for those efficiencies because they understand that efficiencies ultimately means less money flowing down to those people within the organization.
Well, you're going to have fewer fire chiefs. You're going to have fewer police chiefs. You're going to have fewer heads of the water department or whatever these consolidations are. So you can understand the resistance for all those folks who would be losing their jobs. I mean, how many fire lieutenants, for instance, do you need if you've theoretically efficiently combined, you'll probably need less officers. I mean, we're seeing this in the military. Fred, you've got the Navy experience of, if not consolidation, but downsizing.
Consolidation, shared services, downsizing. I've done all of those different things, transformation. And I think it's important that one of the things we have to do is we have to change the tone of the conversation. We have to change the language. We have to really start talking about what are the fundamental requirements of the government. What specific things? Do we actually have requirements that break down into tasks, conditions, and standards? And Jim, you and I have talked about this before. You've got to have a standard out there so that you can actually have a metric at the end to understand whether or not you're getting what you pay for.
Well, you just said something that really has been a theme that I've been pushing, perhaps not as eloquently as I'd like, but you've got to have a standard so that at the end we can measure. Time and again, we are given all of these promises. We, the taxpayers in this county and in this state, have been the proverbial Charlie Brown. Lucy's out there holding the football, promising that if you just come up and kick it, she'll be right there to hold it for you and everything will turn out wonderfully. But there are promises of new jobs. We've got the new mentality of we're counting jobs created and jobs saved with absolutely no metric, no ability to define really what that meant. And there is no mindset within municipal government, and Brian, correct me on this one, but that says, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to spend this money. We're going to do this consolidation, or we're going to do something that says, okay, 6 months from now or 1 year from now, we're going to require that who's ever in charge of this particular event will report back to us in public, and we'll see if we made good decisions or if we need to change decisions to tweak them, or maybe we just made a dang bad decision on our own. But there's none of that follow-up, which is typical, and I guess, Fred, it must be standard in the military. I know in the private sector it is, but it's even more typical in your own home. When you go buy a can of soup, for instance, you have built in the metric or the ability to determine if that was a good decision, or if you're even going to continue it on. You open the can of soup, you cook it up. If it tastes good, if the price was right, you come back. If not, you made a decision. You have the ability, and it's already pre-planned, even though you're not thinking about it, to follow up. Same thing with the purchase of a car and just about anything else. The folks who decide to go to charter schools, they look at that. They decide at the end of the year if they want to continue on.
Yeah, I'd agree with you that historically that has definitely been the case. It's more of what's right in front of me right now. Okay, I'm going to try to make the best decision I can and make whatever decision it is, right or wrong, but never look back at that decision. Just live with it permanently from that point forward. Now, I would disagree to some degree. That's not the way we are headed. We have formed...
when you say we, who do you mean?
We've formed a shared services committee of municipal leaders, those that choose to participate.
In Muskegon County.
In Muskegon County. And we meet monthly. And we report back to the chamber, the press, as well as a lot of the big business owners that have invested into the study of us to determine what needs to be done. And I'm going to give you an example. Voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP, Vonage. I mean, for the home service, Vonage is a good example. Comcast provides a
telephone through your computer.
Telephone through your computer service. Even the Magic Jack is a simplistic version of Voice over Internet Protocol. This study brought us all together, and all of, at least right now, 7 communities, and we believe when it's all said and done, 11 communities are all going to partner together and utilize infrastructure that has existed here in Muskegon County for well over a decade, and that's the Central Dispatch Voice or fiber optic network. We are going to combine all of our phone services together and exist on one single phone system.
Oh, and that seems to make sense.
Now, and in the future, we do have expectations and measurable goals. Is it going to employ people? No. Is it going to save jobs? No. Is it going to save money? Yes.
Bingo.
In Fruitport Charter Township alone, our cost of phone service, our ability to provide phone services, communications with the public, communications with our other communities is going to quadruple. We're going to go from the most antiquated system I've ever seen, honestly, to a top-of-the-line Cisco-based phone system that we can transfer from one community to another, a video conferencing, a voicemail, all the different things that we really need to openly communicate with the public and our other communities. And in the same breath, our cost of telephone service is going to drop 59.2%. Okay, that's
a specific number. I like that.
Because we've done the math, we've done the research. Now, a year from now, we will be able to take our previous phone bills and compare them to what we've paid for 12 months. Is the 59.2% for Fruitport Township, is that an accurate number? You know what? Honestly, it was only 41%. Oh, hello. It's still a measurable goal. And with five of the communities, we're on the base study for the Voice over Internet Protocol. The estimate, and these are pretty good, solid estimates, is that Muskegon County residents that live in those 5 communities will save $2 million over 10 years. On the cost of phone services that the municipalities have to pay for. And that's $2 million that our communities can use for other services, and that's $2 million we don't need to ask for in other forms that we'll be able to reinvest.
Sure. So either reinvest or reduce a pending tax increase.
Yes, exactly.
Let me ask you this, though. Let's just say it doesn't work out. How can you dissociate yourself from this? What's the bailout procedure?
Shut it down and go back to landline services.
So what you've done is you've decided to cooperate. You're not consolidating. One of the things that always bothers me.
That's the very, very good point. Okay, it's not consolidation. We're not saying, okay, Norton Shores or City of Muskegon, you are now providing it to us. We are all still independent entities within this cooperative effort. We still get our own phone bills. Everything will be segregated by community. It's just an impact of lowered cost
and combined purchasing.
Correct. It's the strength of combined purchasing. That's what are the
other municipalities that are with you in this?
Well, right now, Muskegon Township and one of the ambulance services have signed on for sure. Muskegon Heights has signed on. Norton Shores is going to sign their financial commitment on Tuesday. City of Muskegon is taking it up at their first meeting in January. And some of the others that are working through the process are Dalton Township, North Muskegon, Whitehall, and Montague.
Okay, so most of the communities are jumping on.
Yes.
Okay, now you've set up to me exactly what Fred had alluded would make some sense, which is smart people interested not in protecting their turf, but interested in really doing the job that they were elected to do, which is protect the taxpayer dollar and provide the services. Making smart decisions and then doing follow-up. Is this... How do you make sure the follow-up happens? I mean, I know that you're a smart guy. I know you're a guy that I can trust. But I've seen too often, certainly with the county level, there's pretending that there's going to be follow-up, but there absolutely never is, and there's no procedure for that. What's the procedure?
With this shared services study, a shared services committee has been formed, and that's the municipal leaders of the communities that were involved, which is the City of Muskegon, Norton Shores, North Muskegon, Montague, Whitehall, and myself. Muskegon Heights and Muskegon Township were involved to participate in the study, and they chose not to participate for whatever reason. But Muskegon Township is, as of January, going to be participating in this leadership team. We meet monthly, and we report back from our communities back to this group and discuss what we need to do and what we've done. And then we report back to our boards and to the public. And this will continue. As long as this group continues to meet, there'll be a reporting mechanism to assure that we're doing what we say we're going to do.
How does the public find out about this? You say you report to the public. Where is that information?
Through the Lakeshore Chamber and through the media.
Okay, all right. So we've got to put a little heat on the Chronicle.
Anytime you want.
And, well, we are the media, babe. You've got to put the heat on EyeOnMuskegon, and in particular Oscar, who is always cutting us off with this fabulous music. So we will be back, folks. Coming up will be the Mackinac Center's expert on all of this, Jack McHugh.
Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car. Because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. Know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun.
Cops are out there cracking down on drunk driving all across the country, and they'll see you before you see them. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hi, this is Brian Kilmeade, inviting you to listen to Kilmeade and Friends. I break down the biggest stories of the day in the news and tell you what I think. Plus, you get insight and perspective from my Fox friends like Steve Ducey, Gretchen Carlson, Brett Baer, Chris Wallace, Governor Mike Huckabee, Bill Hemmer, Martha McCallum, and people like Geraldo Rivera, only on Kilmeade and Friends.
Catch it weekday mornings from 9 till 11 on News Talk 1090, WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
My husband needed a CT scan to check his heart. Turns out he's fine, but talk of radiation in the news made me a little concerned. So I asked our doctor, how will this exam improve his care? Are there alternative tests that don't use radiation? And is the facility accredited for quality and safety? Our doctor told me if you need a scan, the benefits outweigh any risk.
If you're concerned about radiation, ask your doctor and get the facts at imagewisely.org.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
The talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum
All right, I guess we're back, and Jim will be scurrying back into his seat as we speak.
Oh, my God, that was quick. I thought we were going to have a significant input from major media there, but go right ahead.
Well, you asked on your way out, what else are we talking about? What else is this committee talking about? Obviously, water services is the hot topic, and it's funny, you talk about walls going up when we were on break. When it comes to water services, those walls are everywhere. It's like a maze that we have to work through. And our hope is with the community sitting down at the table in a closed door environment. And to be perfectly honest with you, some of these meetings get very loud.
I would hope,
but they need to be.
Truly, I would hope.
And they get very, very heated. But honestly, when the door opens, we're all friends, and we all shake hands, and we all know that we're working in the best interest of our community.
What about at the end?
No, it's still happening. After 5 months, that still continues. And the nice part is this monthly meeting has provided us opportunities, and some of those barriers are coming down.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You know, there's a book about this, the slow pace of fast change, where they talk about, and you probably read that, Brian, where they talk about, you know, the fact that you have to do some things in change management that you may not want to do. But one of those things is you need to meet regularly. You have the executive sponsorship. In this case, it would have to be, you know, the government executives' sponsorship of these things. You have to actually meld together and then start to make these changes. But what we were talking about during the break was the fact that in order to incentivize this, as you start to look at it, the shields go up within the government bureaucracies itself. And I was asking Brian about, well, how do you incentivize these things? And then to get back to my further point about the language, what you're really doing is you're changing the discourse. You're changing the language, the way people talk about things. And I think that that's really important.
Well, I would just, one of the things that has always been a problem in this is any type of cooperation, collaboration, what you may call it, is the concept that certain people are going to either lose their jobs, lose their power. They're not going to be the police chief any longer. We don't need that extra fire truck. It used to be here in Norton Shores. Now you're going to keep
shaving
it over.
Machines,
or the wonderful, yes, as we've got with well, I'm glad you brought that up. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because the snow cone machines, which had come into our community by virtue of a grant, federal grant from the Homeland Security folks, was originally, if I'm correct in reading what I read, came from Wimserdick, which is the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Authority. And now that is another one of these great cooperation, collaboration organizations that is unelected by the taxpayer. It's appointed, very much like the European Union. And they can go off and do any number of dunderheaded, idiotic, budget-busting moves, and they do not have to face the taxpayer ever. All they need to do is to keep their good buddies on the various boards that appoint them. So that's got me scared. I like what I'm hearing from you, but the collaboration and regionalization almost always involves not the kind of common sense moves that you're talking about, but it almost always involves the requirements of a new bureaucracy that is unelected, that can do any number of things in the dark. Do we have our good buddy Jack McHugh online?
We have two lines going right now, so I'm not sure which one it is.
If we've got Jack, let's see if we can find him.
Okay.
Hi there.
You are on the air.
Yes, I had a comment to make, I guess.
Go right ahead.
To start with, you're talking about a cooperation. If we had consolidation of services as far as you have one police chief that would serve all of Muskegon Heights, Norton Shores, Roosevelt Park, along with Fruitport Township, you would have, and it would all be governed by one city commission instead of having several, board of township supervisors.
Do you think that would be a good idea, caller?
Yes, I think that would be a very good idea to have it be one city.
Well, Brian,
and the reason I would say that, just a minute. The reason I would say that is you're looking at delivery of service. You have one police chief set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 police chiefs.
So you're saying it would save money?
It would save money at the top.
Okay, well, let's hold on, caller.
At the other end with police, the fire, and the other services.
Well, let's caller. We appreciate your comments, but here let's get a response from Mr. Worsham, who is involved in this very intimately, and he's shaking his head no.
What part of the very, very in-depth study that we did does show police and fire services, as far as a single county-wide system, were studied in depth. And on the fire side, it was found to be cost prohibitive. It actually would cost more because of the administrative leadership structure that would have to be placed to assure that the services were provided correctly. It's very much cost prohibitive.
But isn't it simple that you guys are able to run your own show, mind your P's and Q's, take a look at the contract,
correct,
and do it more cheaply than frankly Muskegon or Muskegon, sadly, but in so many ways, our county and the city of Muskegon reminds me of what we see in Genesee County, where Flint is, and Wayne County, where Detroit is, where the costs involved in providing the various services are at the absolute high level compared to where they are in let's just say, the townships or other cities, townships like Fruitport. We've got another caller, and hopefully this will be our friend Jack McHugh.
Good morning.
Is that my friend Jack?
Hi, Jack Mathieu here.
Hey, Jack.
Hey,
Jack. Jack is the senior legislative analyst from the Mackinac Center, and we ought to do an entire show in the Mackinac Center. But, Jack, I hope you've been able to listen to a little of our conversation, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
It's great to hear good in-depth conversation where you're really digging into some of these issues, which on the surface sometimes they seem very simple. Well, government ought to be run by a business, that sort of thing. But of course, the incentives in government are very different from business, and the purposes are very different. And so some of the things that seem obvious don't always work out the way you'd think they were, and this is one of them when we're talking about consolidating different services and different entities and whatnot.
Well, you've got we had a big deal that the governor just signed a whole bunch of bills. You're the senior legislative analyst. What do you think of the bills, and how are they going to affect, let's just say, not just here in Muskegon, but even focus it on, we've got a little, seem to be a very well-run township in Fruitport Township. What's going on in Lansing that's going to affect us?
Well, they're complicated bills. They started out, they were really bad, frankly. They would have authorized a lot of new authorities with very broad tax levying authority and power, and not a whole lot of transparency. The bills got scaled back in terms of those bad aspects of it, but they're still problematic. And the problem is this, that the tendency of government entities is to build empires, to try and grow themselves. You know, when a business grows, it's not a zero-sum game. They're growing the pie.
Well, typically when a business grows, it creates more profit. When a government grows, it creates more debt.
It's a zero-sum game. Government can't spend a dime that it doesn't take from someone else. So if a government is growing, it's taking more from you and me. And oftentimes, these authorities, well, as soon as they're created, what they start to do is look for ways to grow. So, and the other problem is you can create monsters that are impossible to get rid of. And I'll give an example: downtown development authorities. These are nothing more than another device that allows local governments to borrow and spend more. That's really what it amounts to. They get a claim on future tax revenue growth, and they have a very loosely stated mission that amounts to borrow money and spend it on projects that you think up.
Well, but these folks who seem to be quite effective at getting the public to buy into this concept, aren't they at some point challenged to what have you done for me lately? Does that happen or does it not happen?
Well, this is the problem, and Jim, you referred to it a little bit, which is that I'm going to pick on the downtown development authorities because they've been around for a long time and people are familiar with them. There's no direct electoral accountability for these things. The people on them, the people that run them, are political appointees. They're not elected by the people, but they have a guaranteed stream of tax revenue, and they never go away.
Well, they not only have a guaranteed...
the authority never goes away. So you don't have the direct accountability to voters that an elected regular government has. And this is what I think is the missing link in some of these things. It's a concept that we've just started kicking around, which is this: that no unit of government should have its own stream of tax revenue unless it has a popularly elected board. And that doesn't mean that you can't have an authority that gets annual appropriations from other governments, that is a joint service providing authority.
That are voted annually, or at some point where the voters have to justify.
Subject to appropriation of people who are actually elected by the people.
Well, Jack, that also goes to the point of zero-based accounting, where you start all of the budgets out at zero, and then they have to come in and fight for it to begin with.
Is that concept, Jack, is that used, this zero-based accounting, which I really like? Yeah, you start from the beginning, and you have to justify everything. Is that used in any municipality?
I can't say about municipalities.
Oh, my God, Brian just raised his hand. Did Brian jump in on that?
Okay. They talk about that at the state, and actually, Michigan budgets are styled as zero-based budgets. But the reality is, at the state level, which is where most of our work is done, it is impossible to start from scratch with a $45 billion enterprise every year. The resources just don't exist. It's a knowledge problem. So it's kind of it's a non-starter at that level. I think, at a township level, even a pretty good-sized, well-populated township like Fruitport, maybe it is possible, and I'd be interested to hear about that if that's what they're genuinely doing.
Yeah, we obviously, our total annual budget between all, our water and sewer services, police, fire, is it's only about $6 million. It's a lot easier to do than $64 billion. But when I walked into office 3 years ago, and we were running at a 20% deficit, annual deficit, and overspending our general fund by 20% each year for 5 years prior to me coming into office. Well, I didn't have a choice. We had to start from scratch and build from necessity outwards. It took me a very, very long time working with my directors to build what we needed first and foremost, and then take a look at specific services and we took the steps in healthcare 3 years ago. It's funny that some of it's being forced on people, but we did it 3 years ago.
So you're not worried about Governor Snyder's new rules, the 80-20 and the rest of it? You've already taken care of that for your community and for the employees.
Yeah, we're way below the $15,000 cap on the full family coverage, way below. So we didn't have to act in any way, shape, or form, but we did. We had to build it, and we built a balanced budget for 3 consecutive years. We've had, besides the first year when we had the major storm that devastated our township, we had a 0.02% deficit of expenses over revenue, 0.02%.
That's, you wouldn't even be drunk if that number was
$30,000 is what it was. Well, and then balanced last year, or the second year, and last year we ran in a bit of a surplus, and we're on track to run a balanced budget this year. But we had to do that. We had to start from scratch, build by necessity, and then add from there.
Well, you say you had to do that. One of the areas that has bothered me, which is another unelected board, is the habit that I'm seeing, certainly at Muskegon County. We're seeing it in a lot of other places. Jack, you're probably seeing it statewide. But the habit of municipalities not to do what Brian did in Fruitport, where you sit down and you make the tough decisions by people of goodwill who are really looking out for the community. But in fact, you get people that say, elected officials who say, we want to achieve something. We don't really care specifically how it does, because we want to keep our political supporters happy. So we're going to hire a consultant. And we see consultants hired all over the place. They are, of course, not elected. They are appointed by people who, you can imagine if you were a consultant and you came up with the answer that the people who hired you wanted, you'd never get another consulting job again. And I'm seeing in Grand Rapids that city commissioners, and this is apparently police and fire, Grand Rapids, Kentwood, and Wyoming, are talking about merging. And it says they will merge if the result of a consultant's study shows blah, blah, blah. Good things will result from it. And they are apparently going to get $127,000 in grants to pay for what is a $265,000 study. Now,
that's a cheap one.
Well, it doesn't sound very cheap to me. And of course, the article says that the city could save as much as $7 million under consolidation scenario. And of course, the projections show. Now, what they don't say, of course, is that $7 million a year is that $7 million over 100 years. I love folks that, now everybody uses the savings over 10 years. I would say, why not do it over 100 years? You could save, 7 times 100 would be $7 billion. Wouldn't be a billion, it'd be a 700 million. But these are all garbagey things. But the point is that everyone seems to be going. People who aren't willing to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work like you have done in Fruitport, they hire consultants. Jack, what's up with that? Why are we buying into this?
Well, there's a lot of money sloshing around. Obviously, something like that, suggests very strongly that these people they there's a saying: the rich are different. The people in government are different because they look at money. I'm kind of speaking tongue-in-cheek because they look at dollar amounts for things that you and I, normal people, would go, what the heck are they thinking about that? My favorite example of this was a school bond initiative in Lansing a few years ago for a new middle school, and I did some arithmetic, and I found out that they could, for every class of 20 kids, they could have bought a $350,000 house for the amount that this new debt was going to raise.
Did this fly?
Rather than build a new school. And, a $350,000 house in Lansing—that's a lot of house.
You could have had houses on Mona Lake
right now. The Mackinac Center's been writing about this for the last week. The MEDC, the State Department of Corporate Welfare, put out a request for bids for consultants to tell them how much the state would need to spend on corporate welfare subsidies in order to lower the unemployment level to the national average. Now, note that the agency didn't ask, does providing corporate welfare to particular companies selected by political appointees actually reduce unemployment? Their assumption was that it does because that's what the bureaucrats are paid to do in that agency, which is to hand out those subsidies. So, there's an example where $80,000 is going into what is essentially a marketing document for the MEDC to persuade the legislature to triple the amount that is spent.
And that's a consolidation of services and ideas from business paid for by the state to come up with the same loopy ideas that we're talking about. Well, Jack, hey, thank you so much for calling in. We will have you on the show in the future, and you have a great Christmas.
And you too, Jim, and Merry Christmas to you and your viewers, and thanks for the opportunity to join you today.
We will talk to you later, buddy. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And there, Jack is officially gone. It's nice to know that he's not hanging on there. So we will be back shortly.
Every day, epic power failure strikes thousands of victims.
I was home alone in the bathroom of my new apartment when 2 guys broke in. I tried calling the cops, but my phone died, so I sat on the toilet seat and listened to them unmount my flat screen.
Avoid epic power failure with the PowerMat backup battery. One full charge whenever, wherever you need it. Stay charged all the time with a PowerMat smartphone receiver and charging mat. Just enable your phone and drop in charge. PowerMat. Stay in charge. Visit stayincharge.powermat.com.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything to win your trust.
I'm more in debt now because the fees and interest on my cards kept piling up.
Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Neo, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon. Cloudy skies for Tuesday at a high of 37. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well,
okay, we are back at EyeOnMuskegon with Brian Worsham and Captain Fred and Oscar and me, Jim Riley. My golly, all four of us here. I even made it back from the break. Good for me, huh? We are talking about consolidation, cooperation, regionalization, and a variety of other terms that are used by government to hornswoggle us into us, the taxpayer and the resident, into giving up power and control over them so that they can go off and make their own decisions. And it would be one thing if the decisions that they've been making over the years and decades had been decisions that we could look and say, my golly, these are truly wise people. But in fact, the decisions that they've been making over these past years have led to our leaders to never-ending coming back to us and saying, oh, my golly, we're out of money. We need more money, just a little bit more, and we'll be able to achieve the results that we have promised, which in most cases is jobs, or now they've come up with the new way of proving that they've created jobs in it, saying that we've saved jobs, because if you hadn't given us this extra money, extra millions and billions and trillions, you sitting there who are currently employed, Jim and Oscar, would not be getting our big high-paid jobs here even. And in fact, it's been proven not to be true. And I would just like to I bring in what's going on in Europe with the European Union and the abject collapse and bankruptcy of the European Union, because that is the pinnacle of what consolidation really is all about. What happened was, 20-plus years ago, the European nations decided that they could be more efficient, very much like our caller earlier who said that we would be more efficient if we just had one police chief and one police force in the city of Muskegon, or in the county of Muskegon, which is really what communism had always promised. Communism said, why should we have a multiple of car manufacturers or police chiefs? It would be a lot more efficient if we just had the one. And it's a very seductive concept, but in reality, it's never worked. Competition is what works, and we're now seeing, sadly, I think without question for the world and for the folks who live in Europe, that the European Union is collapsing. The concept of consolidating their currencies into one currency, the EU, has collapsed. Almost every expert suggests that the question is not when the EU or the euro, the euro will collapse and disappear, but how will they in fact make that move, and how painful will it be? We must see the snow cone machines from Wimserdick and the Homeland Security. When you are not accountable to anyone for the spending that you do, when you have on purpose, when you have no procedure that will allow you or anyone else to judge and look into the success or the failure of the decisions that you've made, then there's no pressure on you to make good decisions, not to do the homework. The pressure is on you to find, and it's really not great pressure, to hire the consultant who will conclude at great cost what you want them to conclude. And, of course, I can't blame the consultants, because if they want to get hired again, they have to do your bidding. With that said, I jump on it.
Well, one of the things that was talked about is the incentivization of getting the municipalities to talk and make certain decisions, and the governor incentivized it partially by saying, guess what? Your revenue sharing's cut. If you want some of it back, you have to consolidate and cooperate.
And we just saw Muskegon County essentially say, stick it, Gov.
Right. But the difficult part is it's called statutory revenue sharing. All municipalities get constitutional revenue sharing, and statutory revenue sharing is at the discretion of the state government. 3 years ago, the governor at the time took away all of township statutory revenue sharing. So when I had an opportunity to sit down with the governor and said, okay, you're good, you're doing this incentivization for consolidation and cooperation, I said, but you put a limit on it, that only municipalities that were receiving statutory revenue sharing payments last year are eligible for consolidated and shared services revenue sharing for the future. I says, you took mine away 3 years ago. What's my incentivization to communicate and cooperate with my community? And he said, we just have limited funds. We can't do anything about your situation.
But doesn't that make sense? Shouldn't your incentive be, in fact, good governance, getting reelected?
Okay. And to follow up with that is what the governor did to all of the municipalities. I can't participate in, but I am participating. Why am I participating? Because it's what's best for Fruitport Township.
You bet.
And I sit as the chair of the Shared Services leadership team, and I have no incentive. I mean, I'm not going to get statutory revenue sharing. What I'm getting out of it is our ability to communicate with the other communities and find issues like voice over internet protocol or building inspections or water services, is my ability to provide it to my citizens at the best rate possible. That's my incentive.
Let me jump in on this, though. One thing that really struck me, this voice over internet protocol, VIAP, I think is spectacular and good for you. But the one area that I really admire what you did was, and I would like to see more municipalities do this statewide, is you have a fire department, you have a fire service. Mm-hmm. You went out and you actively shopped the service. You said, hey, we've got a good deal here. We can make an agreement that's good for us. We'll get extra income. Good for another municipality. We're going to get the service. You didn't force the people to combine or whatever. They can fire you in a minute. The onus is on you to do the right job. The onus is on them to keep looking around at other competitors, just like we would do with anything else.
If I don't do the job, they'll go somewhere else.
There we go. And folks, I got to start to close this thing down because it's important that we know. And thank you both for being here. You guys, I hopefully will be able to wake you up earlier on Sundays in the future. We will not be at Carmen's Cafe this coming week because it's Christmas week coming up, and there are no county commission meetings. So we will be starting after the first of the year. Again, you can always check the website, which is EyeOnMuskegon.com, and you can give me a call if you like. And actually, it's my Magic Jack number, my VIAP number, which is 231-421-4409. You can get all that information on the blog, which is, again, EyeOnMuskegon.com. Next week, next Sunday, it is Christmas Day. And I am not a Grinch. We are not going to do a live show, but we're not going to do a best of show either. Oscar and I are going to do we will record our show late this week, so it will be a brandy new show. And we would certainly hope that if you got a few minutes on Christmas morning or during the week following, you can listen to us on the internet, on the podcast. But we're going to take a final look at what's happened here, what's changed here in West Michigan over this past year, and how those changes have affected our reasons to have hope for an efficient, responsible, ethical, and more responsible government here in Muskegon. So certain things have happened. I think our governor has done a tremendous job in starting it. We will review 2011 as it has affected Muskegon County and all the various municipalities. So we will not be live. Don't give us a call in on Christmas Day. Don't forget our new time. The people have spoken. We start at 8:30 every Sunday and go all the way till 10 o'clock. Stay tuned for Tom Sinaki's Polka Melodies. Thanks again to Oscar, Brian, the Dancing Fred here, who's we'll have to watch Fred doing his little jig on the Eye on Muskegon television show on Monday nights at 8 o'clock on channel 397, I believe it is. 397. So, folks, have a great week. Have a great Christmas. Have a great Christmas Eve, and we still say Christmas on Eye on Muskegon. So we will be back, and next week, folks, we will put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
Sirens, jet engines, car horns, leaf blowers. Today's world puts our sense of hearing on overload. Luckily, there are places we can go to refocus our senses. Our national wildlife refuges. It's amazing how much more you'll hear when you just take a minute to listen. like a stirring chorus of songbirds warbling in the treetops, or the industrious beaver slapping its tail in the mountain pond over baritone bullfrogs, or the pulsating beat of a pileated woodpecker looking for a meal. When you hear these things, you're hearing the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
Go a long way to helping keep the shelves full, and everything donated at your local credit union will stay in that local area. Together, we can make a difference.